Hello and welcome back to the Entrepreneurs in a Game podcast. This is the podcast where I talk to established industry leaders to hear about their mindset secrets and what's helped them to propel them to their success. Today, I'm really thrilled to announce a very special guest, Jason Graystone. He's an entrepreneur, an investor, and host of the Always Free podcast. Since starting his first business at 22 years old, Jason's love for investing in business has helped him become financially free by the time he was 30 years old by adopting a unique blend of wealth creation strategies, allowing him to replace his active income. Jason has since built multiple seven-figure businesses, spoken on some of the world's most reputable stages in the investing space, as well as universities, schools, and some large corporations, including the Met Police. Jason runs an industry-leading education program to help people achieve true financial freedom. Jason, a very warm welcome to my podcast. It's great to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Nina. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this is where we talk about all the juicy stuff that's between our ears. So we're not talking about strategies and all the outer stuff. This is about really finding out what makes you tick and what mindset secrets and tips you can share with our audience who are, all entrepreneurs, different types of entrepreneurs. They all want to grow their business. Now, let's start from the beginning. You started your first business at 22 years old, which is fairly young. What made you decide to do that at such an early age?
Well, first of all, going back to when I was about 13, I was coming up to my 14th birthday. I lived on this council estate, and when I was coming up to 14, there was a couple of events that took place that made me realize that I could take a different path to potentially my parents and everyone who I was surrounded by. I grew up on this council estate in Morden called Hatfield Mead, and it was all different walks of life there. But every Friday, everyone used to kind of congregate on the steps of the foot of our estate, our block, and talk about the week. And I used to pick up that everyone kind of had this very, very negative view on money, and it was like rich people are greedy, rich people are, it's the root of all evil type thing, what you hear. And what I found fascinating was at about 7:30 every night, this guy called Roy used to come downstairs, collect everyone's money, and do a syndicate lottery. And for the next 20 minutes, all they would talk about is how they would spend the money, and their faces would light up, and it would be my life, if I had this. And I didn't have it all figured out. I was 13 years old. I was just a snotty little kid. But I remember thinking, that is so weird. Like, what is going on? They've just been moaning about how bad money is, and now they're thinking it's the thing that could completely change their life. And I guess it's that innocence of being a child where you don't really understand money or the importance of it. You never had to work for it, so you're kind of a non-biased view. And I remember thinking, this is so strange. Anyway, later on that year, that same year, I wanted a BMX for my birthday, which was coming up in October. And my parents didn't have enough money. It was £209. We were very, we didn't have a lot of money. And my stepdad basically said, if you want it, you raise half and I'll pay the other half. And on your birthday, you can go and get the bike. And I was like, okay. I had no idea I was going to earn any money. But on our estate, we had this kind of triangular green, and everyone parked their cars around the green. And I thought, I'll just go and wash some cars. I spent all day washing this car, got paid £7, £5 plus £2 tip. And that was a lady called Lynn. And that night, I was telling my friend, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to have my £100 in no time. I'll just wash another car. It was the summer holidays. And I thought, great. So the next day I was planning to do more, and he said, I can help you. And I didn't really want to pay him. But for some reason, my stepdad came in the room at that minute and said, I'm going down to Safeway, I think it was back then. Do you want anything? And something made me give him my entire earnings for the day, the £7, to get another bucket and another sponge and a squeegee. And when he came back the next day, we washed 4 cars. And by the end of 2 weeks down the line, I had 4 friends washing the cars, and I was just knocking at the doors and collecting the money and booking the cars in. And I remember thinking, this is a massive, it was like I discovered fire. It was like no wonder people are so miserable about money. It's just they're not using it right. You know, if you use money and invest it the right way, and use it to leverage your time, you can actually be more choosy and picky over what you do and do more of the things you enjoy. And it provides opportunity and it can accelerate you to where you want to go. And I just remember having this amazing experience with money. And I remember thinking, I've cracked it. Like I know what these people don't know at 14 years old, which was really, really weird. But anyway, from that moment on, I became very fascinated with this idea of using money that way and making sure that you delegate and you do things like that. So anyway, down the line, 22 years old, I kind of had that memory in my mind. And at 22, I found out we were going to have my first son, and I wasn't ready for that at all. And in my childhood, I'd come from a background of just me and my mum. My dad left before I was born, my real dad, and we had bailiffs knocking on the door, and it was dark. The electricity had gone. All that kind of that void of insecurity and lack of security and lack of didn't have a father figure or anything like that. So I've always had a strong value. I believe that our voids become our highest values, or what we perceive to be missing as a youngster. We value most as an adult, and I've always valued security. So when I found out I was going to have my first son, I wasn't ready for that. I didn't feel like I was in a position where I felt like a failure. I was like, well, I'm not where I need to be. So I got a rocket up me, basically. I thought, like, this is it. Got to put a plan in place. I need to sort my finances. I need to have this big plan for financial freedom. And I started a business because I knew that I had to control my income. I needed to grow my income. It was part of the strategy if I wanted to, grow my investments, grow my savings, grow my income. I could do all of that. And if I could control all of that, I'd have the best chance of becoming financially free later down the line. So that's why I started. That's the bit of a tangent, but that's the reason why I started the business. It was this passion for, I need to control my income.
Amazing. And what a great lesson for you to learn at the age of 14. And
I'm
it's
very
almost,
grateful.
you say it's almost by chance, you just something and you just said, give the money, for another bucket and mop. You happen to have a friend who's interested in helping you, because you could have done in 2 weeks, you could have washed cars on your own and made just a fraction. But you made that leap
Absolutely.
of faith in your mind that this is worth doing. Let's try it. So you didn't hold back and do the cautious, risk-free route. You went for the high risk route at that age. It paid off, and you thought, okay, I can see evidence that this can work. A lot of people never make that risky decision in life. They always go down the cautious path and they never have that evidence. They may see other people doing it, but they think they can do it, but I haven't got what it takes. But it is that leap of faith sometimes, isn't it?
Totally. And I agree with what you're saying. And I see today that there's a lot of entrepreneurs, one of the biggest downfalls of their business is their bottleneck limitations due to them not being able to delegate or let go of that, and focus on the things that they are good at and love doing, rather than trying to do all the little technical bits and pieces that they're not really inspired by. And that, you might not think it, and it might seem cheaper to do it on your own, but it's going to start making you resentful for the job. I would have hated doing a car wash if I was washing cars all day, right? But just because I had that, I don't even know why I did it, but because I was able to go, right, you wash the car, I'll go and get the money. Because I did that, I was enjoying getting the money and chatting to people and making the sales. And I started loving the car wash. Of course I love the car wash. So I think that everyone goes into a job where they could actually love their job. They could actually love their job. The reason they don't is because they spend too much of it doing things that they start becoming resentful for and wanting to escape. That's why they want to go on holiday and want to go and, and it's like, oh, I'll just go and drink at the weekend and go. I need a 2-week holiday to get away from this. And I think if everyone could become a master of delegation, everyone would enjoy their vocation a lot more.
So let's think of an entrepreneur who has a business. They've got some clients. they don't feel they've got the cash flow to hire someone. So they end up doing everything themselves, all the tech, marketing, sales, admin, as well as delivering their service. So they said, I need to grow my business more before I can take on my first or second hire. What would you say to them? Because then they come at that place where they think, well, I can risk taking someone on, but what if I don't make enough money to pay that person and I have to let them go again? Or what if that person doesn't work out? I spend all this time training them, they're not the right person. Maybe I have to go through 2, 3, 4 people until I find the right person. That's a huge drain on my time and energy where I could just be doing it myself. So they talk themselves into staying, a one-man band, one-woman band. Yeah. What would you say to them in terms of how they could break out of that thinking?
There's a few things that I've seen go on in people's heads when it comes to letting go of the reins, if you like, or that's how it's perceived, to be letting go of the reins. It's actually not at all. But the first one is, someone else couldn't do what I do. So rather than the money, it's more to do with, well, they couldn't do what I do. It's easier for me to do it myself, because if I have to teach them, they'll probably get it wrong and all the rest of it. When in actual fact, more people can do lots of your work than you think. If you was to go and get a manager from McDonald's who's like a 18-year-old kid, he would probably find running your business pretty easy, because he's out there dealing with a ton of staff, lots of drunk people coming at night, and all the the mess that goes on in hospitality. Your business is a walk in the park for that 18-year-old manager. I promise you, right? So whether you think things are replaceable or not, they are. and there's someone out there who can do it, who's not seeing it from your point of view. They're seeing it from a more logical point of view, believe it or not, because they're not emotionally attached to the thing, and they can help you. They can do it. There's two main aspects to that. One, it's like the whole exchanging time for money thing, which is a big trap that people get stuck into, and that's a mindset thing. It's like time is money, and I always think, like, if you think time's money, you're going to be very limited to what you can earn, because time is not money. There's only a certain amount of hours in the day, and if you believe time's money, you're limited to what you can earn. Whereas if you look at it as money is time, like I do, every penny you've got, how much time can that buy you? That's kind of how you want to look at it from day one. Because if you can look at it that way, you can say, well, the first thing that would be wise to do is to save up a cash cushion in the bank and prioritize that over taking the profits to blow it on a holiday to escape my resentful life at the moment. Let's save up 3 to 6 months operating costs in the bank and have that as time we can buy into the future, just to level up and see the business for what it is from a bird's eye view, rather than being in the trenches every day. I can now have a little bit of a breather, look at what's going on. I know everything's going to be okay financially for 3 to 6 months. Now, how can we use this money to buy even more time into the future? And that is, how can I use this money to replace some of the things that I don't enjoy doing and I'm not very good at? Admin, bookkeeping, emails, diary management, all of those kind of low value tasks that are kind of high priority in a business. So that's the first thing. It's like, start by building a priority list write down everything you do in your business, every single action that you do right now, and then put a score next to it of how much you enjoy doing it and how good you are at it. And if you're feeling really, really good, put a price per hour replacement cost of each of those tasks. Then prioritize them in order of least inspired to do, and start prioritizing delegating that. You've got a cost per hour, and if it's £10 an hour work, it doesn't make sense for you to do it. You might as well just go and get a job. You don't really need to run a business if you just want to do £10 per hour work, because you're not going to get anywhere. It's not value. It's not high value tasks. So here's something to think about. For every time you don't delegate £10 an hour work, whatever you value your time at, let's just say you value your time at £1,000 an hour, because if you was to sit and prioritize and focus on creating a book or a program or some kind of accelerator that could help people, that might be worth hundreds of thousands of pounds over your life. It might be worth millions of pounds over your working life, right? And when you break that down into an hour, that could easily be £1,000, £2,000 per hour work if you was just to focus on that. So every time you're doing £10 an hour work, it's actually costing you £1,990 per hour. So, and you know, there's really not any arguing that. I know people like to go, oh yeah, but that's kind of a theory. It's not a theory. That's just how GDP works. It's just how that's how economics work. So, yeah, I mean, start there. Start prioritizing and delegating. If you're never delegating and you're never able to master delegation, you'll never become financially free ever, because someone will always be telling you how to spend your money, and that's not financial freedom.
So what is financial freedom for you? What does it mean? Because it means, it's such a subjective phrase, isn't it? Everyone would say, give it a different meaning. And it's one of those phrases which is banded around: financial freedom, financial security. We see it in marketing all the time. And it was almost become like a little cliche, which you just sort of bounce over because it doesn't really mean anything anymore because it's used all the time. What does it mean for you?
Financial freedom, so total financial freedom, the way that I do everything kind of objectively. So I break it up into two phases. Phase one, I call just financial independence. And phase one is a very binary, you either are or you aren't. Okay. And what I mean by that is financial independence phase one is where you can maintain an income to cover the living costs that you need to have an enjoyable life, regardless of a parent, partner, spouse, geographical location, or a boss or someone to answer to. Okay. So you either are or you aren't in that position. And that to me is financial independence, where you can, you know, you're the driver of your income and your life, and you don't have to answer to anyone, and you're very mobile to be able to do it anywhere in the world.
So for example, you may have a job that pays you enough to be able to go on holiday whenever you want. You manage your mortgage, your bills, food, you've got some left over to have, you know, pursue your hobbies, etc. Or you're an entrepreneur, you have enough in the bank to feel, you know, if you want to plan a holiday 3-4 months in advance, you were able to do that. You could buy your flight, book your hotel without feeling any fear around it.
Absolutely. And it's not just the fear, it's, to me, it's like the independence as well. So if you're in a job, you still to a degree answer to a boss. No matter how flexible your job might be, you still answer to someone, and you're being told and dictated what to do. So for me, phase one is true independence of a boss.
It's being an entrepreneur.
It's the entrepreneur, but who's exactly in that situation. I'm not saying that everyone should be an entrepreneur, and I'm not saying that you can't be in a very independent financial state of being in a job, because you absolutely can. That comes more down to making sure that you're doing a job that you love, and that you delegate the things that you don't like doing about the job, and you're enjoying it basically, and you're able to do it from anywhere in the world, and you're not trying to keep up with the Joneses and buy things to impress people. You're actually living a life true to you and what you love. That's a great feeling of independence. Phase one is very binary. You either are or you aren't. Phase two is kind of a scaling in effect that takes place. So phase two for me is maintaining that income to cover your lifestyle costs, regardless of you. So the economy could crash, you could break a leg and lose your limbs, you could die, and that income would still keep coming in. And the only way that you get phase two financial freedom is by investing your money, or a portion of your money, into assets. And the assets you either buy or you create. So a creation of an asset is something like a business system, or a business that's very lean, that doesn't require your time. It could be delegations on what you're doing where you don't require you anymore. It could be anything where you build something or create something that generates income in perpetuity. A asset that you buy is obviously a stock, a business, something that pays a dividend, an index fund, something that you put your money into, someone else manages, and it's very passive of your time, and it pays you. So financial freedom you only get from investing your money into assets. And that's how I, to summarize, financial freedom phase one is you can generate enough income to have your lifestyle costs regardless of a job, parent, partner, spouse, or geographical location. And financial freedom phase two is you can still generate that income regardless of you.
Yes, there's passive income, the second part.
Yes. Yeah. Pure. The more passive it is, the more, the more free, the more free from time and space it is. So it's the more free you feel.
Yeah. But it's still subject to market conditions. Say you bought bonds and stocks, etc. It's not, nothing is guaranteed in life, apart from the fact that we all die. But it's still subject, it's still out of your control.
Yeah, it's still out of your control. If you was to drill right down into investing strategies, you can talk about all weather strategies that have stood the test of time, and the stock market's gone up 9% for the last 92 years, and you can look at all the averages, and you can diversify and all the rest of it. I always like to think, look, how much would I have to have invested at just a 5% return per year? And how much would that pay me, right? So to cover my lifestyle costs that I've got now. So you add up all of your dream lifestyle costs and you divide it basically by the percentage return that you could get. So 0.0, if you're going for like most conservative case scenario, 5%, which means you could just buy any index fund, and over time that will go up, right, every single year. 5%. So whatever the total of your annual lifestyle costs are, divide it by 0.05, and that will give you a sum. And that's how much you would need invested to never have ever, to have that income coming forever and never eat into that initial lump sum ever again.
Amazing. Yeah. Great. This has been a really great lesson. Thank you for the investment lesson. I'd like to go back to your childhood, because you said that, people around you, they had limiting beliefs around money, etc. They would talk about rich people are greedy, they're evil, etc. How did you not absorb those beliefs? Because so many of our beliefs we create in childhood, and we create very productive beliefs in childhood. We create, unproductive beliefs in childhood. It's about self-esteem, around money, etc. How did that wash over you? And how did you not absorb that as a sponge?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think they say that your character's developed by 7 years old, and you kind of form a set of values, a set of priorities by 7 years old, based on what your beliefs are in that 7-year period. And I think we either don't fall too far from the tree, or we fall very far from the tree. So what I mean by that is, I could have quite easily said, oh yeah, money does cause a lot of arguments. Money is bad. Money is, but I think more often than not, we take the opposite. Whatever we feel it's when you perceive something to be missing in your life. And I lacked security. I didn't have a dad there. I didn't have security. I was going from one place to the next. My mum was working different jobs. I was babysat by like a gangster guy called Joey Pyle at the time. And he was the best man at Ronnie Craig's funeral.
Wow.
And my real dad was off getting shot and stuff. Like, it was just, I just craved, I felt like I was missing security, right? So very early on, I realized, maybe reinforced by the whole BMX saga, was that money does provide security. It ensured that I got that bike I got the money for that bike very quick, plus some. And I felt free. I felt like I could pull the levers a little bit. I felt in control when I had the money. So I guess I made that link, and the financial security side of it just, came through education and just a love for what that's enabled me to do, the opportunities and the options that have been there as a result of having financial stability, I guess. So yeah,
yeah. So it's not
that would
about
be
the
my answer.
money, it's about what money can get you. And in your case, it was
Yeah.
the security that you craved. And you saw the route to this security was through having enough money and giving yourself financial stability. So you were in control of your life. So this then brings us to the subject of motivation for entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs who are, just basically treading water, they're not seeing any significant growth. They may even be slipping backwards. They've lost their mojo. They've lost their motivation of why they first started their business. They've just lost all of that. And they just, sit at their desk every day, not happy with what they're doing. They haven't got that goal, that burning desire. How can they reconnect with that again?
First of all, I would make sure that you're not chasing something that you feel was a good idea. I think today, particularly, it's rife. It's like a pandemic in itself, where we're seeing people try to chase this. I need to be this, or I need to do that, or I need to do this funnel, or that I need to be this entrepreneur, or this, I need to do whatever, drop shipping, or I need to be an entrepreneur in my bio, all this kind of stuff. A lot of that comes from just looking up to other people, and it doesn't actually come from who you truly want to be. And when you do feel a little bit burnt out like that, a lot of the time it's just your body's mechanism to go, look, come snap out. You're not being you, don't do that. Stop doing that. That's not what you want to do. So I always think a business should just be an extension of you. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, it's not very sustainable if you're trying to do something that you just don't want to do just to make some money. So here, the way I look at it is we've all got to live on this planet, and we're always going to want to be up to something until we drop dead. We're always going to want to be mucking in, getting our hands dirty in some way, and feeling meaningful and feeling helpful and having fulfillment. We're always going to want that, right? So why not make a vocation out of what you enjoy? So the way that you do that and make sure that's in check is ask yourself a series of questions like, what are you known for? What do people ring you for? What do you bring up in your conversation when you go out with your friends? What do you spend most of your disposable income on? What do you feel energized by? If you didn't have to work on Monday and money wasn't an issue, what would be the first thing you chose to do? Like, how would you go and spend a week or 2 weeks? It won't take very long for you to find a very common theme in those answers. What people ring you for? What do people, what are you most dependable for? What are you most reliable for? And it might be animals, it might be, cars, it might be football, it might be whatever, right? The beauty of the world we live in today is you can make money from anything. So make sure that it's aligned to something that you love. Otherwise, you might find yourself where you're in a position, you just try and start reverse engineering your life back to, I wish I'd always done that. And then you're taking night school, learning how to do it again. And you're kind of, you're working overtime. And I see that all the time, particularly with doctors and accountants and lawyers who went into a job because their parents told them to be a doctor. They hate it, and they get to 80 grand a year to 100 grand a year, and you cap out on stress and responsibility. There's no more money to be earned. And they then go, I wish I'd always done that. And then they spend all night learning a side hustle to go back to doing that. And it's like, do it in the first place, give yourself a check and say, is this what I really, really want to do? Is this aligned to me? Another great exercise, go through your camera roll and just look at all the photos that you take. And I guarantee there'll be some kind of theme in there as well. It's like all through the years, all the photos that you've taken, what's the common theme? Might be martial arts, might be, car racing, the mountains, or something that you love to gravitate towards. Something that you see in the shopping center when you go in the shopping center that someone else might not see. When I go in the shopping center, I see all of the tech gadget shops, and I'm looking at how many people are in the shops spending money and looking at the business side of things. And when my wife goes in the shopping center, she sees the home stores and the family home stuff and the animal stuff. And it's everyone's got those things that they gravitate towards naturally. And just to make sure that you're doing something that is aligned with that in some way, at least. Even if the business isn't that directly, you can align it to a charity that does something like that, or you can align it to something that helps your bigger purpose. And I think that'll really help with the day-to-day stuff, because when you have a bigger cause, the day-to-day stuff doesn't tend to get in the way as much.
Nice. So it's really having that big desire, isn't it? What would you do, when you have a really successful business? What does that help you? Do you become a philanthropist? Do you, spend loads of money taking your family on amazing holidays? What is that? So for you, security, what is on the other side of having that money? What is it going to enable you to have, be, and do? And keeping that in mind as you show your desk every day. And I'm really, really having that, big letters by your desk. Fantastic. Thank you. So just as we're coming to the end, I'd love to ask you, what is the biggest lesson that life has taught you so far?
The biggest lesson that's quite profound in my mind, it might not be to other people, but it's this idea of, and especially over the last few years where we've seen, sides formed in every angle that it could be imaginable, is that just don't believe in good and bad and right and wrong. And when things happen and events take place, really try and see the good in what's happened, and see the bad in any fantasies that you've got to try and balance out your mindset. Because what I've seen over the last few years is, people become very, very fantasized about cryptocurrency and NFTs and this and that and the other, right? And what they're not seeing is all the equal downsides to that, right? And I've also seen things that seem terrible, like COVID, for instance. And then when you look back at COVID now and you ask most entrepreneurs if they enjoyed it, they're like, it was a great time. I learned a lot. I got a lot of clarity. I got, yes, I changed my business in a way that it should have been changed years ago. It made us evolve. There's always equal good that comes out of a negative situation. There's always negative that comes out of a great situation. So just trying to see that instantly and as quickly as possible will allow you to be really poised, really non-reactive, and allow you to maintain calm in those periods of time where people need leadership and people need direction, right? And you're going to come out on top because you're a balanced master, if you like. So that's something I like to practice, to make sure that I can see the good in the bad and the bad in the good.
Yeah, a nice balanced view, because we do tend to see things in black and white through to all our old conditioned thinking, and we do tend to get drawn in by our negative stories about stuff which are limiting beliefs, and just believe those to be completely true. And it's like playing, isn't it? It's like playing with different things and seeing, okay, so what's good in this, what's not so good in this. So because everything we think about, all our beliefs, they're the foundation on which we make decisions.
Yeah.
And the decisions we make about life.
It's just us that believes that. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not the external world giving us these beliefs. Great. So it's been absolutely fascinating. I could talk to you for so much longer, but unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time. So how can our listeners and our viewers find out more about you and the amazing work that you do?
Oh, first of all, thanks a lot for having me on. It's been a really fast conversation. Time's flown by, and I'd love to have you on my podcast so we can carry on the conversation. But the podcast, I tend to usually just ask people to go and listen to my podcast, and it's called Always Free. And just one prerequisite or one request is that you go back to episode 1 and start there, because I did start them in order. So if anything resonated with you that I said on the show today, I started that podcast with a series of directionally correct strategies. So if you go to episode 1, first of all, you'll hear a bit more about who I am and why you might want to listen. And then I'll give you the directionally correct strategies throughout that series. So if you're still listening to episode 6, Always Free podcast, come and send me a DM or something.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I'd encourage everyone to go over and have a listen, because from hearing what you've been talking about today, you obviously have some very amazing strategies in life And anyone can follow those strategies, can't they? To create
Absolutely.
more financial freedom. That's the wonderful thing. We live in a free world here, and we can make decisions to increase our wealth and our security. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone who's been listening and watching. We do love having your company with us. And until next time, bye-bye for now.